Hi there and welcome to another episode of Security Skills. I'm Carl Randall and I'm back with security expert Anthony Milner. This video is all about suspect or victim identification. Now this will include how to describe someone, their appearance, what they're wearing and their ethnicity. We'll also be covering IC codes and the importance of these, especially for when passing descriptions over a radio. Let's get into it. So, Anthony, why is it important to know how to accurately describe someone?
Well, Carl, it's very important to know how to accurately describe someone because there's two cases you might need to do this. One case is passing accurate information on to colleagues or potentially the police, and another reason might be for later producing evidence that needs to be used potentially in court as part of a case. So accurate descriptions of people is very important.
And for security professionals specifically, what might be some scenarios that they may need to describe someone?
One of the most obvious ones is somebody has left the scene and we're having to write a statement, and in that statement I'm needing to record exactly what they look like. We do have things like CCTV footage. We might be able to look at that and still write down a good accurate description. We might not. We might have to do it from memory, so we want to do it as soon as possible. And the other reason might be to pass information to colleagues of mine for somebody that either the police are looking for or other security is looking for, and give accurate information of what that person looks like so that they can be located by the other members of the team.
What are some of the important things to remember when you are describing someone?
So the most obvious things that we should remember to include is things like age, build, clothing, very important, what they were wearing at the time, any distinguishing marks, things like any tattoos, anything that stands out, ethnicity, obviously, face, facial hair, things like that, haircut, gender, gait sometimes important as well, how they walk. So a gait is how somebody's walking. If they've got an obvious limp or something like that, you would mention that. If they're carrying anything or any other idiosyncrasies that they may have, so odd behaviors that they might have.
And working in security, you're not just going to be describing people. It could also be things like vehicles.
Absolutely, and we do have like a little shorthand cheat method of describing a vehicle. We use something called SCRIM, which is essentially out of the military, but it stands for shape, color, registration, identifying marks, make and model. And essentially it's just a way to memorize how to describe a vehicle without forgetting any important elements.
So you mentioned there when you are describing someone to mention things like ethnicity. And to do this, there are things called IC codes. So what are IC codes?
IC codes are just a shorthand way of saying somebody's ethnicity. IC stands for Identification Code. It was invented in the late 70s by the police in the UK, and it's just a shorthand. There's 6 versions of them, and it is from the officer, or in our case, the security officer's opinion, what we see, rather than somebody's self-definition. So we have IC1, which is White European, also known as Northern European, IC2, which is Dark European or Southern European, IC3, which is African or Caribbean, IC4, which is South Asian, IC5 is Oriental, and IC6 is North African or Arabic. IC7 or IC0 could be describing unknown. So in other words, we couldn't see their ethnicity for whatever reason. It was dark. We didn't get a good look.
And an important thing to remember here is that it is your opinion.
Absolutely. It's our opinion. It's not somebody's self-definition. There are about 17 or 18 self-definitions, whereas we're only given 6 definitions that we use.
Okay, so using everything we've gone through there, obviously you've got to describe someone's height, their clothes, their ethnicity, using IC codes. Can you describe me?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, basic description, depending on how we're going to proceed here, i.e. am I describing over the radio or am I describing in a statement? So we'll do a radio type of description where we would start off again with IC codes. I'd say IC1 male, age between 25 and 30, wearing a black short sleeve t-shirt with white lettering or insignia on the left-hand breast pocket area, black trousers, white trainers, short dark hair, and there's nothing else really to mention, right now, because you've got no distinguishing marks, so it's no tattoos or anything on display. And of course, gait-wise, we can't really say. Height-wise, we probably mention that as well, so we would say height. And again, estimate, because I'm right next to Carl, so I can see him and I can sort of make a judgment on height. But if you're at a distance, it might be more difficult. Might be able to give a more generic thing, saying an average height. But if you are going to give the height, you want to give yourself a little bit of leeway. So you would say something like between 5'10" and 6 foot in height. Again, if you measure in meters and centimeters, you would say something like 185 to 189 centimeters in height, something like that.
So obviously you're right next to me, so you can pick out things like the little white logo on my black t-shirt. But what advice would you give to a security professional who might have seen somebody but not been able to take everything in?
I think it's important first to be clear about that you didn't see everything, and don't try to fill the blanks in yourself, because that's where you'll come unstuck, especially if this went to court. You just want to be clear about what you did see. Again, if you couldn't tell the ethnicity or something like that, you would simply say ethnicity unknown, IC7 if you wanted to. I wouldn't in a statement ever put IC codes, you would just be layperson about it. But essentially just give the most you can, which clothing stands out the most, so you would just simply say, try and get height estimate, because again, if you're not right close, it might be a bit more of an estimate. Average height, tall. You could tell if someone's tall because you can see the people around them and you can see kind of how they measure up to those people. But other than that, there is a little bit of estimation in here. And it is important also to say that if it is at a distance, I include that, especially if I'm writing a statement, how far away was I when I saw this person? That's very important in case this evidence does get used in court.
Okay, so to summarize, when it does come to describing somebody, make sure to give as much detail as possible. Focus on things like clothing, height, hair color, those kind of things. And if you haven't seen everything, just make sure you make that clear. Now, thank you very much for watching. Also, here's a little challenge for you. Anthony's described me, but now I want you in the comment section below to describe Anthony using everything we've covered today.